We are living in the iPod age, and the popular device is being used by children and adults of all ages for hours at a time during the day. Could this mean that we see a dramatic increase in the number of people with hearing difficulties in, say, 20 years' time? Most of us would have been through that moment where we temporarily think that we've gone completely deaf. That moment we walk out of the venue after seeing the band and all we can hear is a high-pitched ringing in your ears, which follows us all the way home and stays with us all the way through the night, and it's there when we wake up in the morning. I've been there countless times, gigs, band practices in the small rooms, and club nights right next to a speaker pumped up to the max, all of which are classic examples of a loud environment. But there is one offender these days that some people just discard as being dangerous, and that situation is happening everywhere, every day. Just look around when you're out on the street and see how many people are just walking, running, riding or sitting, doing anything with those funny little objects pushed into their ears. We are now in a world where we can carry hours and hours of our favourite music literally in our pockets thanks to the ever-expanding technologies of personal music players. In 1979, the business giant Sony released a Walkman to the world, and its success was phenomenal. People love the idea of having personal music, but not the idea of carrying their entire tape collection around with them at all times. In 1984, the compact disc player came onto the scene, and its crystal clear sound quality, which could be maintained for longer than tape, enticed people to buy a portable CD player. However, carrying CDs in your rucksack sometimes didn't prove too practical. Sometimes the cases may have broken and the discs come out and scratched, unless you carried around a big bulky case full of CDs. Not only that, I can remember getting especially wound up when all my CD player did was jump and stop because I was moving with it, which is the whole idea behind a portable CD player. Then MP3 and digital music files happened, and suddenly music was no longer a physical object, so carrying around tapes or CDs was no longer a problem. Music was now a digital file, a collection of zeros and ones, and this meant that one small device could hold thousands of songs in one place. This was perfect for music consumers, and therefore the popularity of MP3 players and iPods exploded. To date, the iPod has sold over 225 million units worldwide. This begs the question then, how is the excitement about portable music going to affect our hearing? You often see people at work drilling roads or wearing big protective headphones over their ears while they're doing it, or sound technicians with earplugs in, or gardeners or whatever. But if the sounds of everyday things such as drills and motorcycles and stuff is damaging, then how dangerous is an iPod turned up at full volume? At what point should we stop to think about how loud we have our music? Because I'm passing people in the street or sitting next to them on a bus, and sometimes I can hear it as clear as day what music they are listening to, even though the speakers projecting that music are smaller than a 10p piece. I chose this subject for growing concern for my own hearing loss. I'd like other people to understand the dangers of loud music. I wanted to find out the recommended listening times of an iPod or other PMP. PMP is personal music player, and what the impact will be in the future, as never before in history have people been exposing themselves to loud music as much as they are today. So how loud is too loud? Sound is measured in decibels. Decibels are measured using a logarithmic scale which sets 2 reference points. This means that the measurements cannot be doubled up or added or subtracted without using a formula. We know that in the scale, if a sound doubles in volume, it increases by 6 dB and vice versa. If you had 3 appliances all making noise at 75 dB at the same time, such as a washing machine, tumble dryer and a vacuum cleaner, the total volume would not add up to 225 dB, but instead be around 87. 225 dB, by the way, is enough to make your ears bleed while your house falls down around you, because it's 14 times louder than a jet plane taking off. What sounds make us wince and which ones are so quiet we can barely hear them? Using information I've taken from various websites, I've compiled a list of sounds at the decibel readings. There you go. As you can see, there are various things in the table with different readings. Which of these are dangerous, you ask? Well, these ones. Any sounds above 85 dB are considered dangerous. Now, some of you might be looking at the table in amusement that a hairdryer belts out enough sound to damage your hearing, but it's only after a certain amount of time. The iPod and other MP3 players up until 2009 used to pump out volumes between 50 dB and 120 decibels. So how does hearing damage occur? Noise-induced hearing loss can be caused by exposure to loud sound for a certain amount of time, such as personal music, motorcycles and everyday household appliances. Short bursts of sound such as gunfire and fireworks can also damage your hearing, but these are less likely to be permanent. Hearing damage can also be caused by smoking and over 200 different medications. Medications that cause hearing loss are called ototoxic medications, and they range from everything from antibiotics to painkillers. This type of hearing loss is called presbycusis. I was also told at my hearing test yesterday that 2 aspirins a week is enough to cause tinnitus. This is the human ear. It's made up of multiple different parts, each very delicate and sensitive to loud noise. When sound travels into your ear, it enters the ear canal and then travels to the eardrum. The sound waves cause the eardrum to vibrate. It then sends these vibrations to 3 tiny bones in the middle ear, called the malleus, incus and stapes. The sound gets amplified by these bones and then gets to part of the inner ear called the cochlear. The cochlear contains many hair cells which are extremely sensitive to sound. These sensory cells then turn the sound into electrical signals which are then processed to the brain. Sounds and noise at a certain volume listened to for too long will result in these hair cells to become damaged and worn out, therefore unable to process the sound in order for you to hear it. Once damaged, the hair cells cannot grow back, and hearing loss starts when 25 to 30% of the hair cells have been destroyed. There are many different types of hearing loss, but noise-induced hearing loss is the most common. It happens gradually over many years of being exposed to noise. Hearing damage in the cochlear is irreversible. People suffering with noise-induced hearing loss will have difficulty understanding speech over background noise. Sounds will appear muffled, and the sufferer may also be experiencing tinnitus. Tinnitus is in the ringing in your ears that I mentioned earlier. However, that was temporary tinnitus, also known as a temporary threshold shift. Permanent tinnitus will occur after 30% of the cochlear hair cells are damaged. Tinnitus is not just a ringing sound, it can also be a roaring, clicking or a hissing sound that constantly seems to be in your head. Tinnitus may also be related to other things such as blood pressure, kidney function, diet and allergies. If you see a doctor, they'll refer you to a otolaryngologist, an ear, throat and nose doctor. The ear on a person with noise-induced hearing loss will be unable to process certain frequencies. This is usually the higher end frequencies at first, such as 16 to 20k. They go with age as well. Loss of high frequency hearing makes many words sound alike, such as those containing the high frequency sounds such as an S, C, F, sh, ch or h sounds. After more years of exposure to loud noise, it is the frequencies between 1k and 8k that start to go, especially 4k, and this is when a person will start to have trouble hearing speech. Words such as hill, fill and sill may sound exactly the same. More about this a little later on. One website described hearing loss like a patch of grass which is walked on over years at time. At first the grass springs back up after people walk on it, but after years of being walked on, the grass starts to become trampled and flattened and eventually disappears. So how long should you expose your ears to loud sounds for? There are various factors affecting this question, which makes it hard to determine an exact amount of time that you may be safe for. People's ears vary according to a guy called Corey Portnoy. He's an audiologist and doctoral candidate at the University of Colorado. He says everyone does not share the same risk of hearing loss. Some people are born with tougher ears that allow them to listen to music relatively safer for longer periods. In contrast, those with tender ears may suffer ear damage even if they follow the instructions and MP3 listening recommendations. He says there is really no way of knowing which people are more prone to damage from listening to music.